Hey Hoopballers, are you into sports betting? Do you want to know why a certain game has a funky line? Well, Hoopball has you covered. Today in Sports Betting is a great addition to all your handicapping questions with hosts Ira Silver and Devin Ellington. We break down game lines and future bets on all sports and try to make some money along the way. Follow us on Twitter at Hoopball Gaming, at Ira Silver Magic, and at DALE007. And download Today in Sports Betting in the App Store, Google Play, and available on Spotify.
The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
What is going on, Hoop Ballers? Hello, this is Mike, and welcome to the Hoop Ball DFS Today podcast. Joined by my wonderful friend Santino Caccone to break down this September 2nd slate. It is a wonderful Wednesday, but Santino, how are you doing, my good friend?
Doing pretty well, man. We have 2 Game 7s out west, and the best 2 words in sports, so I'm super excited. Now we got one tonight as well.
Yeah, and I think that we're all pretty pumped up that, OKC was able to come out and take that game to Game 7. It's just a little Chris Paul revenge. Did you hear? I don't know if you heard. Did you hear that little slight jab he took at Harden in the post-game press conference last game?
Yeah, I was listening to it. A lot of it, I mean, some of it was jabs. Most of it was talking about how good his team was, and a lot of compliments to Dennis Schroeder out there.
Hey, and it's good to hear that from Chris Paul, because sometimes he gets like a negative, narrative, I guess, of being like not a bad teammate, but being a little bit tough and being hard to get along with. And he kind of has that stereotype where people say superstars can't really play that well alongside of him, as good as he is and as good as making his teammates. But it's always nice to hear, especially when you're talking about, a team that some thought he wasn't even going to be playing for the entire season.
Yeah, they thought they were going to be trading him a lot. So it's nice to hear that. And nice to see that this team is as good as they look.
Yeah, and then talking about that last game for Milwaukee and Miami, a little bit of a underwhelming performance from the Bucks. They kind of came out and they looked a little bit flat without Eric Bledsoe. But we're gonna talk about both these teams anyway. So we'll jump right we'll jump right into this. First game of the night is Miami versus Milwaukee. Right now, this game total is coming in at a wonderful 221.5. Milwaukee being favored by 5 points. And the only thing that we need to keep an eye on as far as the injury report is on the Bucks side of the ball. Eric Bledsoe is being considered questionable. He did get a slight practice in. It wasn't a full practice that it was today, we're recording this the night before on Tuesday. So we're going to have to kind of monitor that in the news. I'm kind of in the camp of thinking that he won't play again, but I'll pass it over to you and let you give me your thoughts.
I'm sorry. Well, you don't think Bledsoe's going to play?
No, I'm kind of in the camp of thinking Bledsoe's not really playing after, you're talking about a muscle injury, and to be frank, he's been limited all playoffs. So I think when I was doing the show with Brenton on Sunday night, I asked him if he saw anything. So I'll ask you, because just him being limited all playoffs and then now actually sitting out, has this been something you think he's been dealing with, or is this kind of did you see it happen? I didn't see the game prior to see if it happened mid-game.
No, I didn't see anything really stick out to where it got or he was hurt. He was probably most likely been dealing with this the entire playoffs, because he did miss some time and then he came back. But I would say I would have him closer, less doubtful than you have him, just because it is game 2. They're down 1-0 already. If he can give it a go, I think he's going to give it a go and get hit under 30 minutes as he's usually been getting. Either way, I'm not looking at him for DFS.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same camp. It's the only thing that's going to impact is the value that we're going to have available on Milwaukee, and whether or not, obviously with Bledsoe out, Middleton and Giannis get a boost. So I mean, we've already broken down this Bucks team. So I know you're not on Bledsoe, and that brings us right to what I just said: Middleton and Giannis. If Bledsoe sits, which one of these guys do you prefer to play? I mean, big price discrepancy between them, but they pretty much had very similar games in that last one.
Yeah, two similar games for each. I'm more in the camp of taking the discount and going with Middleton. His shot's starting to fall again. I know Giannis is going to bounce back. He's not going to. He's going to put up a lot more points, but in that price range, there, leaning towards someone else up there. But I like Middleton for this price. I think his 40 points is going to come easy for him. He doesn't have the entire as hard of a defensive assignment. And you get a lot of money extra to play with on a pretty stacked slate. I know it's only 2 games, but you got to pay up for some of these guys, and I'd rather take the little bit of discount and save there.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I love both these guys. So Giannis, it's like a tale of two takes for me right now because I see something I like and I see something I don't like. Bam's done a great job on Giannis all season long, and pretty much up until this game, he held him to an average of about 55 DK points throughout several matchups. So it's a tough matchup for Giannis. Bam's probably one of the better players in the NBA that just size-wise and stylistically like matches up with him. But then I also see that they're finally playing him decent minutes. And in decent, I mean Giannis up until this point has yet to play more than 34 minutes, and he played 37 in that opening game against Miami. So, talk about a guy that averages about 1.5 DK points per minute, and just giving him an extra 4 or 5 minutes on the floor, it makes a difference to me. So I do have interest. I'm not going to, completely fade, but I'm probably going to, if Bledsoe's out, I'm going to have one of these guys in just about every single lineup, and I'll be mixing and matching with the other top guy up there being Harden.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, you can't completely fade Giannis if you're doing multiple lineups, but for one, I would lean towards Harden just because of the way. We'll get into it after of why.
Yeah, no worries. And as far as Brook Lopez, he came out and just shot the lights out of the gym. It was a mismatch that it kind of took me by surprise. I really expected them to play Kelly Olynyk some decent minutes, just because of that matchup, Bam being on Giannis, somebody matching up against Brook. But it looks like the Heat just kept rolling out Crowder. So 27 minutes, he shot 8 of 10, 4 from 6 from deep for 32 DK points at 5,500. Is he still in your player pool?
Yeah, because you only have four opportunities to get a center. I do like the center on the other side of this ball here. But at some point with Jamison Crowder on you, we're going to have to see Brook Lopez do what he used to do and get some damn rebounds at some point. So I'm hoping, I don't think he's going to shoot 8 of 10 from the field again, but I'm hoping to see more than one rebound. He's the biggest guy on the court. He's 7 feet. I know it's not hasn't been his game for 3-4 years, but for one game when you're down 1-0 and you have the massive size advantage, you should at least get 6 rebounds.
Yeah, and it's like one of those lines where it's like, what could have been if this guy just had like 6 rebounds, and but nonetheless, it was a fantastic line. I still like him. Kind of prefer the center in the next game, I think, a little bit more for a very similar price tag. You talked about the guy on the other side of the ball who we'll get to, but with little center options, I mean, it's not saying much. He's probably my third-ranked center out of like 4. So
he's just not many to choose from.
Yeah, and then I guess the only other plays that we'd probably be looking at over here would be the value, as if Bledsoe were to sit out. We saw George Hill get inserted in the starting lineup. Another thing that caught me off guard, just because they haven't done that all season. They've normally inserted Dante DiVincenzo, keep George Hill with that second unit, but they brought him into the starting lineup, and they basically just started funneling minutes like Pat Connaughton, which is a little bit surprising. I necessarily didn't see that coming, but now we kind of know the situation. I guess, and Budenholzer, he might switch things up knowing that they lost. He might just roll the same thing out there, but who are you looking to take advantage of for value with Bledsoe out?
I mean, if you look at the rotations in the bubble, they haven't played DiVincenzo at all. I don't think he's played 20 minutes, or he might have played 20 minutes 1 or 2 times in this entire bubble. But Pat Connaughton, since he's come back, he's been a constant in this rotation. Over 20 minutes pretty much the entire bubble, especially in that first round. So he is part of this rotation since he came back. So he's a guy to kind of look at. But I guess if I'm going to go for value, it's George Hill. He played 36 minutes without Bledsoe. I know he took 5 shots only. He only had less than 14 fantasy points. But at 4,300, if you're going to play minutes in the 30s like that, there's not much not many people you can say that for. So I'm definitely going to give him a look.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same camp. I hope people just check that box score and see the bad game. Minutes equal money, and you're not going to find somebody at 4,300 that's playing that many minutes. That and this you got to keep in mind. The Bucks do play at one of the fastest paces too. It's a little bit of a down pace against Miami, but there's going to be plenty of shot attempts still in this game. So I'm with you. I think George Hill. If you happen to need Connaughton at 37, not a bad option to go to. Probably still prefer him over Wesley Matthews. Matthews has been starting for who knows how long quietly. I always until I'm actually watching the game, I always forget that Wesley Matthews is even on this team sometimes.
Yeah, it's like him and I guess Marvin Williams, the two people I'm not looking at. But if you love your lineup and you're stuck under 4K, they're getting minutes in the 20s right now, and you really can't. It's hard to find people under 4K that are getting minutes in the 20s. I would go Connaughton, but that's just on like dire circumstances.
Yeah, and we'll slide over to the Miami side of things. Butler came out, was the hero. Bam was actually struggling for most of the game, but then really turned it on, midway through the third and the fourth quarter. So between Butler and Bam, very similarly priced guys, 7,900 and 8,300. Do you prefer one over the other?
Playoff Jimmy has been money lately. This series, not the series, this bubble or this playoffs. But for me, I'm going to go Bam Bam. The Adebayo sauce, because I mentioned it earlier, you only have 4 options here. With 4 teams, there's not many options at center. I'm not going to play PJ Tucker. I don't mind Jeff Green. I don't really like the difference between Adebayo and Sammy Adams or Brooke Lopez. Or I said Sammy Adams like the bear. Steven Adams or Brooke Lopez or anybody is a lot bigger to me than the difference between a Middleton or a Galinari or a Covington. So the options at small forward and shooting guard, where you can still get Schroeder or Shai or even Hero, someone of this nature, is just a bigger gap to me to where I like Bam. And I think they're going to put up similar production, and the difference in where they play in the position is just massive for me.
Yeah, and that's the number one thing on a 2-game slate. Position scarcity is extremely important. And we're talking DraftKings pricing most of the times, but especially, it's always worth mentioning some things on FanDuel. And, Bam being power forward eligible over there just makes him seem like a near lock every single night on these 2-game slates where, we struggle to find halfway decent power forward options. But I don't mind looking at either one of these guys. I think, it's going to basically come down to build. If you're spending up on, Giannis or Harden, and you still want to get some of those OKC guards, and all of a sudden it gets a little harder to spend up at Bam or Butler. But if I had to prefer one over the other, I'd probably still rather play Butler. With Bam being on a guy like Giannis, the fear of foul trouble and all these other things come into my mind. Exhausting a lot of energy on defense. He played great in that last one, though, and he's really been packing on the rebounds the past 2 games. So I'm not going to flaunt anybody. He even showed it when he shot 5 of 12, only scored 12 actual points, still was able to put up almost 50 DK points because of 17 rebounds and 6 assists. He's still one of the best passing big men in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the concern on the defensive end as you. Bam is one of the premier defenders in the league. He probably should have won Defensive Player of the Year, or I liked him a little bit better defensively than Giannis, so we'll just stay with there. So I don't think he's going to. He's going to exert energy, but he does that in every game, so I don't see a huge difference there. And rebounding, I mentioned it with Brooke Lopez. If your opposing center is only getting 1 rebound, you're in a great matchup.
Yeah, no, that's a good call too. We've seen that kind of be one of the weak points. Brooke Lopez just plays so far away from the basket, so. Goran Dragic, though, he's been actually like turning back the clock during this entire bubble. Even prior to the playoffs, but being inserted back in the starting lineup ever since that happened, it kind of rejuvenated him, playing 30+ minutes every single game. And I don't know, we'll pass it to you in a second, but for me at 6,900, I still play that. If you want to get some heat exposure. And you can't get the Butler, I don't mind paying the 6,900 if he's going to keep playing 30+ minutes and taking at least 16, 15 shot attempts.
It's funny because when we started this, I know I forget who I was on in the first episode, but he was only 4,400. It might have been, I think it was actually me and you that we did that first playoff episode where he was playing against the Heat, and he was only 4,400. And that was a steal, especially since Kendrick Nunn was getting benched. And now he's all the way up at 6,900, and rightfully so. This guy has been fantastic this entire playoffs, mostly the entire bubble. The lowest game he had in the entire bubble was that first game where he scored only 29 DK points. He's never been under 30 since. He's never been under 31.75 since. So looking at this 6,900 price tag, it's pretty high comparatively, but he's bringing back value every single time. So if you, like you said, if you can't get any exposure up there and you're spending up elsewhere and you still have 7K to play with, if you look at this slate, there's not many like people I want in that price range. Or if I have 7K, I know I'm going to hit a safe floor with him. The ceiling might not be 50 points, but the floor is value.
Absolutely, and that floor is super important when you just talked about like the raw points factor of a 2-game slate is very important, and especially if you're a GPP player, there's still maybe not that 50, but at 6,900, he's been smacking 40 out of the park left and right, and we'll take 40 at 6,900. Yeah. We'll take that to the bank any day of the week. And I guess the other guys we have to look at are going to be these wing players, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jay Crowder, those types of guys. All fairly priced. Similarly, Hero leading the pack at 53, down to Crowder at 46. Duncan smacked right in there at 47. Do you have any interest in any of these wing defenders?
Yeah, I mean, I all three of those guys I don't mind playing if I'm around that price tag. This team is super deep. This is why they are here right now and have a 1-0 lead on the Bucks. They are very deep. Not just Butler and Adebayo, but Hero can shoot. Duncan Robinson maybe in a year or two might be the best 3-point shooter in the league if he's not one of the top 7 right now. And Jay Crowder is a very underrated glue guy. So, I mean, I don't mind looking at all three of these guys. I think Jay Crowder, he also got 9 and 9 last game because just Brook Lopez doesn't want to crash the boards at all. Hero and Robinson, the thing that I've been saying about the Bucks is one thing that their biggest weakness on the defensive end is they give up a lot of 3-point shots. So Hero and Duncan are both in decent spots here, and Jay Crowder could just crash the boards with Adebayo's defensively attentive to Giannis and Brook Lopez just standing still there. So I don't mind looking at all three of them.
He loves standing still. It's like his favorite thing. He trots up the court so slow like a newborn deer, and then it just stands 3 feet behind it, does that Brook Lopez type shot, and it goes in.
For a guy that was a perennial 20 and 10 guy when he was in Brooklyn with blocks, I just don't know how you change your game so much to where you barely get 4 rebounds.
Well, they told him he needed to shoot threes more, and he did. He took that challenge on and literally smashed that challenge out of the park. But he can only hold so much room for basketball skill. So he got so good at shooting threes that he had to push out some rebounding skill. It's kind of like a 2K rating where you get a certain amount of points. You could raise his threes all the way up, but it's got to come from somewhere. So we brought his rebounding down to 17 and put him at a nice 86 3-point shot.
A 7-3 guy who gets less than 5 boards a game as a starting center.
Yeah, and I think it works for them because
it does.
It's cool that it's kind of that we talked about it. I think in the preseason, or not the preseason. Yeah, maybe it was the preseason or right before the bubble started. But we were talking about the Bucks, and it's like that Russell Westbrook thing when he was playing with the Thunder. Just let them grab the board, clear it out, jumpstart the offense, push the pace, and it works great for him. But yeah. I'm with you, Crowder. I think would probably be my top option out of these three. I prefer Tyler Hero over Duncan Robinson. Just because I know that Hero gets a lot of that second unit usage as well. So having that bench guy, and they're both great 3-point shooters, and that's kind of what the Bucks' weakness has been is people behind the 3-point line. So while Duncan Robinson hasn't been putting up great lines and doesn't look all flashy, he's still in play, but probably just for tournaments. Same thing with Hero. Crowder, I think, could be used in either tournaments or cash games, and then. A lot of people seem to go to Andre Iguodala in that last one for some value. He only played 19 minutes. He's only 3,700. Do you prefer him or a guy like Pat Connaughton? Same price.
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting one. I would go Connaughton for the same price, just because there's so much depth on this Heat team. If somebody gets into foul trouble on the Bucks, you know that he's going to be the first guy off the bench, as he has been in the playoffs so far.
Yep, I'm with you. I'm in the same boat. I think I prefer Connaughton. You almost sounded like when you said Connaughton, you were going to have like a British accent on that, and I was looking forward to it. And then you stopped.
I almost butchered it like 3 times, so I said Connaughton.
All right, buddy. We'll go.
I probably did butcher it anyway.
Yeah, that's you're notorious, man. You're the one and only butcher. So we'll keep it moving. The next game, but before we get into that, just a quick shout out to our presenting sponsors over at Manscaped. If you haven't checked them out already, head over there. Use that promo code HoopBall20 HOOPBALL20. Get 20% off plus free shipping on your entire order. And then I love to say that we're how close a relationship and being partnered with MyBookie is. So, go over to MyBookie. I know Santino's been checking them out and playing a little bit more lately. And if you're not already, make sure you're following Hoopball Gaming. And it's like a match made in heaven. You get the great lines, you get the great picks. You go over there to MyBookie, use that promo code Hoopball, get a nice little deposit bonus match, get some goodies, and then start counting your cash and then repeat the process the very next day. So.
Get some goodies.
Get some goodies.
Are you at a candy store or something?
Listen, that was like my favorite thing tell me when you were younger, you didn't judge. And I'm talking maybe like, anywhere between like 6 and 8, maybe 9 years old. You go to a birthday party, you judge it off like goodie bags, like who had the best goodie bags at the birthday party. And it's almost like Halloween where you kind of have the best houses mapped out that give out like the king size candy bars. So I am a big goodie bag fan, but
yeah. I like it. I'll respect it. I won't say anything about it.
All right. I appreciate that. But we'll keep it moving. Next game, Oklahoma City Thunder against the Houston Rockets. This is a game 7, 219 over under. Houston being favored by 5.5. No injury report has been released by either team right now, but it seems like both these teams are fairly healthy outside of Westbrook. It looks like he's still going to be on some sort of minutes I guess we could say monitored or restriction. It is a game 7, so take that for what it's worth. Sometimes that gets thrown out the window if it's like a 3-4 point game in the fourth quarter. You best believe that if Westbrook can handle it, they're going to try to play him. But struggled in that last one. Didn't look like his best self. I guess we'll start with this Houston team. 8,900 for Westbrook. Does that price tag kind of creep him into your player pool at all, or are you kind of avoiding after that?
So it's a tale of two takes, I guess. Because 8,900, anytime he's under 9K, you're like, oh, Russell Westbrook, okay. I mean, you got a lock and load right there. But if he's still going to be on a minutes limit, he's not going to hit 30 minutes. And I know he missed, 18 before game 5, he missed 18 days. 18 days of basketball that he was hurt and not playing. He's one of the few people that just gets a surgery and comes back 3 days later and acting like nothing happened. But he didn't look great last game. And the turnovers and the end of the game, how it ended, he was just playing way too fast. And he does that a lot. He plays fast. He's so fast, but he plays faster than he needs to play sometimes. He'll drive and just throw a pass out of bounds. I guess if I'm doing multiple lineups, I'll look at his way because that is cheap. But if he's limited, it's going to be very hard for him to get the 50 points that I want from him at 9K pretty much.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the same thing. If I'm building multiple lineups, I'll definitely take some look. I think he makes a ton of sense for tournaments and GPPs. I said the same thing in that last one. And it's just on the off chance that he does play more than his expected allotment. It makes sense for him to be limited. But if this game's close in the fourth quarter, let me know what you think. Because like I said off the rip, 3-4 point, maybe even a 5-point game. I don't see him coming out if there's 6 minutes left and he already played 27 minutes. So you're telling me, possibility game stays close, he could play 33 in the brink of an elimination game. Can you see that happening, or do you think they're going to be, hold firm on this restriction that they have? I think last time they said 25 to 30 is what he was expected to play.
Yeah, I could see him playing 33 if it's really close, and it should be really close. I mean, this is a winner-go-home game. You're not going to get another chance at this, and they made this trade not to get beat in the first round by the team that they traded with. So, if they don't want to be a laughing stock, I'm pretty sure he's going to play as much as he can possibly handle. And he's a guy that will, if this game is close, he's going to bark and bite and plead to say, I'm playing. I'm not getting out of this game.
Yeah, and I think he probably deserves that. This would be like a little stain on both Harden and Westbrook if they get bounced by Chris Paul in the first round.
Yeah.
Definitely not a good mark. But we'll slide over to James Harden, 11-2. When we talk about him, we generally talk about Giannis in the same sentence because you can't get both those guys. And most people want to start their lineups with at least one of them. So any interest in Harden at 11-2?
Yep. I said it every time I've been on this podcast, and I was talking about this series. This team has held James Harden to lower than James Harden standards. In all 9 games, he scored an average of 53.1 fantasy points. He averages a lot more than that. He averages 59.6. So that's a big 8 or 6.5 point swing there. But this is a game 7. And after watching the fourth quarter of last game, I have no words on how this team even kept it that close. Watching every possession that the Rockets went down and seeing James Harden not touch the damn basketball made absolutely no sense to me. I know that they were trying to prevent him from getting the ball, and I saw Shai and Schroeder and everybody face guarding him to try and not get Harden the basketball so he could set up the offense. But that's not an excuse to not give your best player and the best offensive basketball player in this game the ball. Get the ball, make any type of screens, do what you have to do, get him the ball and initiate the offense. It was baffling. It was about the last 7 minutes. I barely saw him touch the basketball, and I just did not understand that. I can't possibly fathom that happening again, and I just see James Harden taking as many shots as needed. Everything that they just gave to Russell Westbrook and funneled to him in the last 7 minutes of that game, I think funnels to James Harden, and he has himself a day.
Yeah, and when you look at somebody like Jamal Murray, as good as he's been playing, as lights out as he's been, and the type of caliber player he is, there's no way he should be taking 8 or 9 more shots than a guy like James Harden. Just thinking about like the skill and talent wise, Murray has still capable of guys he could share the offense with, being Jokic and a few other guys. It's basically Harden here. When you're talking about a non-healthy Westbrook, this guy should have 30 shot attempts every single game right now. So I've been shocked by just the amount of shot attempts he's been taking. Over the last 2 games, 22 and then 15. Early on in the series, he was taking those. He was taking 25. He was taking 27, and it wasn't surprising with some of the results that we were getting. We were getting good games from him. So I'm with you. I'm expecting a bounce back game where we do see closer to 30 shot attempts from him. I'm still not, mind made up on Harden or Giannis. Do I prefer one over the other? It's really close for me. I just love Giannis in any type of bounce back situation. Almost dropped a triple-double, barely scored. So I do like him in that spot. But this is a game 7 with James Harden. And like I just said, he's got to take 30 shot attempts. So I'll be mixing and matching them. Okay, what about some of the – oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, I know people love to talk about legacies and the players might have it on the back of their minds. If James Harden gets beat in the first round after asking to get rid of Chris Paul, and this Rockets team especially, if he gets bounced again and he plays like he did, I mean, I know he's scoring over 30 points. So saying James Harden is not really playing up to James Harden standards is kind of crazy. But when you're in the playoffs and you're just taking a back seat when the game's on the line, I expect him to just he has to come out and show why he's the talent that he is on the offensive side.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the other ancillary, I mean, there's plenty of ancillary pieces when we talk about this, but anybody like in the front court stand out to you? PJ Tucker, Jeff Green?
I don't mind some Jeff Green, but I'd rather try and get Bam in my lineup if I can. But for 4,900, Jeff Green is not. I know the last game he didn't really play. I think he changes again. He was playing over 30 minutes before that. I'm not. The last game, it just kind of dwindled there. But I think he gets the minutes back here. But Robert Covington is the guy that I'm looking at in this as the ancillary piece. If I don't get a Harden, especially, he's finally getting back. He's playing great. His stocks are coming back in full force, which we've been waiting for, especially in FanDuel where it's 3 points for each of those. He's always in play, but he's taking more shots. He's being more assertive. His 3-point shot is falling. He's taken 17 threes the last 2 games. This guy looks like he's ready to play. And after that, the little Chris Paul gamesmanship where he slapped him after he made that 3, I don't think Covington took that too lightly. I think he's going to be pissed off, and this whole team's going to be bad. But for the rest of the pieces, I think he's the best of the bunch.
You're telling me Chris Paul got under someone's skin? It doesn't sound like him. No, but I'm with you. The guy got 24 FanDuel points and just blocks and steals in that last game. So when you talk about just upside, it's there for Covington, and he doesn't need usage. But he's been shooting, pretty well over the past few games. I think we talked about it on Sunday, me and Brett, and it's just you could see that he wasn't being as aggressive, but he was hitting his shots at a good clip, especially from deep. So I do prefer him over Eric Gordon, especially in tournaments. Gordon's had a pretty safe cash floor, but I just don't get the upside I'm looking for in Gordon, whereas in Covington, it's there. We've seen it the past 2 games, 40+, still at a very fair price tag. Probably won't go to Daniel House or Jeff Green. House coming off the, a little bit of the bench now with Westbrook back in there. So still playing some decent minutes, but, not a guy that I generally gravitate towards. And for Jeff Green, 4,900, yeah, you probably get the minutes, but I think I'd prefer the center on the other side, Adams spending up on Bam, and probably even Brook Lopez over him for only $400 more. But Tucker, he's kind of been slowly playing a lot better than we're used to seeing, especially compared to his regular season numbers. He came out and he has 11 rebounds in 2 out of the last 3 games. Is he a guy that, you have to just need 4,500 and land on him, or can you actually see yourself? I wouldn't call himself a foundational play, but getting some decent exposure to him.
Not really. I guess if you're around that price tag, maybe, but I'd still rather stick with like a Jay Crowder or someone else. Maybe if George Hill's going to get 30-something minutes, I feel safer with George Hill as well. I guess if you're really punting the center spot and want to save some money and go real cheap, he's a guy. But if I'm there at utility and I have about 4,500, there are a couple other people in that price range.
I'm kind of not interested. So you said Jay Crowder, and I think that's a really good comp just because, they're very similar price tags. George Hill, I think, is another great example because I think a lot of people would just play George Hill over him. But like I said, he had 11 rebounds in 2 of the last 3 games, and the third game where he didn't, it was the one that he got ejected in, and he had 6 rebounds in 21 minutes. The dude's been playing boatloads of minutes, at least 38 outside of that one game over the past 4 games. So he's actually quietly been rebounding very, very well against OKC. 32 points in that last one, 19 in the one he was ejected. We could fairly say, I think it's fair to say, if he played an extra 15 minutes, probably would have got to 25 or so. And then we're looking at, 27.75 in the game before that. So, I think we're getting a pretty safe floor from him. Ceiling's not all that high, but, he showed that he can get you, close to 30 and 30. So I'll keep him in play, and I might end up on a little bit of him.
The game that he got ejected, it was later, and they lost by 34, so I don't think he was playing any more minutes anyway. But he's not bad.
And any bench guards you have any interest in, Rivers? Are you ready to just move over to the OKC side?
Yeah, no, I'm good with the rest of these guys.
Yep, I'm with you. So Chris Paul, 8,200. Anytime it's a close game or important game, the minutes go up for Chris Paul. So he played 39.5 minutes in that last game. Could you see yourself getting some shares?
Yeah. This is game 7. So this is the more exciting matchup anyway. Obviously Miami-Milwaukee is a fun matchup, but this is a game 7 between 2 teams that can run the floor, and they're both trying to go somewhat small ball at a lot of points in this. So Chris Paul is definitely a guy that I'm looking at. He's a guy on a mission. For the same price though, Jimmy Butler is only 100 more. So and Middleton's 100 less. So they're all pretty similarly comparative. I'd probably lean towards the other guys on the OKC bench, but if I'm making multiple lineups, I definitely have to have some Chris Paul exposure. Yeah,
and you talk about all 3 of those guys. They're all 3 in great spots. Do Do you think that warrants that, just maybe a lineup where you fade Harden or you fade Giannis and you just stack up with some of these 8K guys and get a lot of shares of 50-plus point ceilings?
That's a definite possibility, especially because most people want to get at least one of the two big guys. But everybody else, if you're looking at the slate, it's 11, 11, and then Westbrook's the third highest at 8, 9. And if you're not comfortable with playing Westbrook after what he just did, then you can easily get Chris Paul, Jimmy Butler, Middleton, Adebayo, and then see what you have left after that. But you can definitely load up on a ton of these guys. That's a definite possibility if you're doing multiple lineups.
And I have to say, so, the importance of how bad Westbrook played it means a lot when it comes from Santino, because Santino is a diehard Russell Westbrook fan. It's if I don't want to misspeak here, I'm pretty sure he's your favorite player in the NBA at the current time right now. So
he's one of them.
All right. Yeah. Well, you love the guy, and you've always gone to bat for him. So when you're willing to say this dude looked terrible, he looked pretty terrible. All right. We got Shea, we got Schroeder. Both these guys just playing boatloads of minutes. Shea's shot attempts, cooled off the last two games outside. He had a couple of the first, I think it was 3 out of the first 4 games in the series. He had 17 or more shot attempts. So you expecting the news to still kind of be, a little bit down, or you expecting to bounce back? What are you expecting from Shea?
I'm expecting. I don't think he's going to play that. I don't think his DK points are going to be as poorly as they were the last 2 games. So Game 5 was just a massive blowout. So I'm chalking that one up. Last game, Chris Paul came alive in that fourth quarter, so they didn't really need him. But I can't see a scenario again where he doesn't eclipse 15 plus shot attempts. And with that, I can see him easily bringing back 30, 35 DK points. So he's definitely on my radar. I do like a 700 discount for Dennis Schroeder, though, as well. Probably a little bit more.
Yeah, I love Schroeder. I always love playing Schroeder, especially in this Houston matchup where, they go small. So I generally don't play Shea and Paul in the same lineup. I think it's a solid tournament idea, but for cash, I don't want to have both the starting guards. I'd rather have, one of the starting guards. Hopefully he's getting the more usage, more shot attempts, and then, Schroeder's going to get his off the bench anyway, no matter what the case is. So but I think all 3 of these guys are in play. I've been saying that I think every time the Thunder play, and nothing's changing for me. It's still the same matchup. And now it's just, more important. These guys should just play 38 to 44 minutes, and that would not shock me. We'll slide over to the front court then. I've been talking about Steven Adams, I think, left and right, and he's definitely a guy I have interest in on this slate. 14 rebounds in that last game, but more importantly, he played more than 30 minutes. And if you're telling me, elimination game, Steven Adams is a solid point per minute guy. It's not like we're talking about a guy like Christian Wood who just racks up points when he's on the court, but you're talking about a guy that's going to be going against PJ Tucker when it comes to rebounding. So, 14 rebounds the last 2 games. Looking like he'll probably play 30-plus minutes again in this elimination game. And that's for those reasons why I like Steven Adams at 5,700. He's probably my favorite center play on the board.
Yeah, for another guy who can hit value, I like that. Dollar or point production, I don't think he's going to touch Bam Adebayo, but I do like him at 5,700. That's not a bad price. I think he's going to hit value, and he missed a few easy bunnies that he should have made last game. And if you say he made 2 extra shots, then he's near 30 points right there, and that hits his 5x value if that's what you're looking for. So with only 4 games, the center again, you only have 4 options for a decent center. So him and Brook Lopez are both solid. I give him the edge because it is the Game 7.
Yeah, and the one thing that's been shocking me about him too is he's only blocked 1 shot in this series so far. Not necessarily known for his shot blocking prowess, but for a guy to only have 1 block and 2 steals in the entire series, something's got to give. We need a couple more Adams, but I do like his floor. I think he does have that 40-point ceiling if he puts it together. Like you said, hits a few more bunnies. Don't forget, if he scores 4 more points, we also get a nice double bonus as well. So there's a lot of things that kind of factor into Steven Adams. All right, we'll go to the small forward / power forward positions. Galinari and Lou Dort. One's 4K, the other one's 61. Galinari, I think that's kind of why Shea was limited in that last one. Gallo came out and had his shot 9 of 17 from the floor. The most shot attempts that we've seen from Gallo pretty much this entire series outside of the first game where he did shoot 9 of 17. So what are you expecting from these two guys?
Well, Dort, outside of that blowout game and the first game where he just came back from injury, he's pretty much hit his 20-point, 25-point value that you're asking for if you're playing a guy at 4K. So the ceiling is pretty solid there, around 20 points. I mean, the floor around 20, 25 is ceiling floor. He doesn't really have either. But if I'm playing around 4K, I don't mind him. We talked about a couple other people around that same price range. So he's a little bit safer in that regard. But he's getting the minutes. Like we talked about Connaughton, there's not many people that are getting that minutes. This guy is. So he's certainly in play. If I have a couple extra hundred, I want to go George Hill, assuming Eric Bledsoe doesn't play because the upside and the ceiling is a lot better. But that's where I would stand with him. As far as Galinari, this matchup was coming into here. This matchup was really good for him, and he was playing a lot better against OKC comparatively. He still has, if you look at his season stats, he's still scoring more points, including this rough playoff series against Houston than he is averaging regularly against everybody else. So this matchup is still pretty good for him. He finally got a shot back. I think it's going to continue where he keeps that shot going. But at 6,100, I'm going to have a tough time playing him a lot.
Yeah, and for me, it's correlating these lineups. So I just talked about it. I don't think I'd play him and Shea just because, Chris Paul is going to be the guy that eats first. Schroeder's going to eat off the bench. There's not enough mouths to feed. We are too many mouths to feed when it comes to, having two more guys get 15-plus shot attempts. It's just not there for them. So I wouldn't play Gallinari and Shea together, but I could see, playing Gallo just because of the eligibility, whether it's at, small forward, power forward, especially on a site like FanDuel where we have to play, two small forwards. So kind of where I'm at with him. And as far as Dort, you said it. I think it's safe. I think he's safer for cash games than over guys like Connaughton or Andre Iguodala, but doesn't have tremendous upside. We know what his upside looks like pretty much. So, and I'm with you. I think for a couple $100 more if Bledsoe's out, give me some George Hill.
And I guess we can throw in the last guy. How do you feel about Darius Bazley?
That was a quietly good game he had in that last one, and he's been rebounding well.
2 in a row.
Yeah, and it makes sense when you think about it. I mean, he fits in this small lineup that the Rockets like to run, and he could probably play, whether it's a 3 or the 4. Even have some center eligibility at this point. I don't think we would have thought Darius Bazley at the beginning of the season would have center eligibility, but I don't think at PJ Tucker's beginning of his career we would have thought he had center eligibility. So game's changing, but I don't mind taking some look, and I think maybe I guess we'll ask. So do you prefer him over Dort? Push come to shove, same price, both forwards.
Yeah, so that's where the hard thing is. It depends. If you're feeling safe, Dort's that guy that's going to get you to 20, nothing more. He's not going to top out around 20. 25 is going to be his max. But Bazley is a better offensive repertoire than this guy. He doesn't have the consistent minutes, and he's not going to be in there to guard James Harden and unlock in his rotation role. But he's a better rebounder. He's a better scorer. Push comes to shove, I'll go Bazley because I know people aren't going to look at him as much anyway. So you have that less ownership, whatnot, and he has a higher ceiling. So that's what I'm going to try and go for.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense to me. Dort safer for cash, Bazley upside, GPPs. I'm with you. All right, buddy. I think that's all we got right here. So we stretched a two-game slate into a 43-minute show. I mean, we tend to do that. We tend to talk, mostly me. You just sit there and butcher people's names. I just don't shut up. It's a good combination. I like it.
I got a question before we go though. Who do you got? Game 7.
Ooh, I'm gonna give the edge to Houston. I'm gonna give it to Houston. I think what I want to see isn't always what I think is going to happen, though. I would love to see James Harden get knocked off in the first round by Chris Paul. I think, but also for the sake of the rest of the series, I think Houston. just makes a little bit more sense, if we want some more competitive basketball games, I think down the road in playoffs.
Yeah. I'd rather, if as a Laker fan, this weird small ball thing kind of, I don't know. It kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies thinking, okay, the Lakers should dominate them, but I don't know. So I'd rather see OKC in the next round, but I think Harden's going to come out just and having one of those games.
The sheriff, the sheriff on the basketball court. So, all right, man. Well, that's all we have for you guys. So if you guys have a quick moment, we'd really appreciate it if you go give us a rate and review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, wherever you're listening to this. Thumbs up, positive comment. If you like something, let us know. If there's anything that you think we can do a little bit better or focus on, let us know. We're happy to oblige. But and then give us a nice little follow on Twitter. You can find me at Mike Apotria. That's MikeApotria. You can find Santino at Santino Caccone. SantinoCaccone. You can hit us up there. Any questions you guys might have, whether it's early in the morning as lineups are getting ready to lock, we'll be happy to answer them if we could. So. Anything else you'd like to leave us on before we take off, buddy?
No, I think we got it. But enjoy the last Game 7 of the first round. Hopefully we see a couple more. I just love watching Game 7s. Speaking of that, we're at halftime in the first Game 7. Got to go catch that second half.
Yes, we do. I know I got some decent Nikola Jokic shares. So
what? I thought it's Jokic.
Oh, man. Now you're going to come at me. All right, let's get out of here before the butchers. That's all we have for you guys. Thank you for listening. From everybody over here at Hoop Ball, including Santino and myself, let's go out there and take down some GPPs.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.